Hello, Pirate Dave here, and it is another new comic book day. It's August 12th, 2026. Let's get right into it with some comic books. Up first is Supergirl number 16, Kingdom of Zod number 1, the start of the Kingdom of Zod event. This looks like it's going to dip back into Supergirl, I believe, for the next issue, but it's mostly going to go into Action Comics and other issues as well. I believe this event is preceded by the Kneel Before Zod series. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was an 8-issue series, and I think it was intended to be an ongoing, but it was canceled. I could be wrong about all of that, of course, but I did really read the Kneel Before Zod series. I did like it, and it seemed to end somewhat preemptively. And of course, Supergirl is currently being written, and I believe, let's take a look at the illustration here. I believe it's being written and illustrated by. No, that is not Sophie Campbell's. That is not Sophie Campbell's illustration. That is, let's see, Joe Quinones and Paolo Villanelli, with colors by Joe Quinones. I don't believe I'm saying that correctly, and Arif Prianto. Look at that wonderful splash page. Of course, Supergirl debuted this new costume at the end of her previous arc. I think it's gotten some sort of polarizing receptions, somewhat inspired by the final costume for the Supergirl TV show, I would say. And of course, inspired by Superman's costume, right? If you, for some reason, do not enjoy Sophie Campbell's illustration, I don't know why you wouldn't. It's just perfectly in line with the sort of Silver Age story she was telling. You have a much more dramatic and serious sort of aesthetic going on here. Probably more appropriate for the Kingdom of Zod event. It's going to be less fanciful and less, Silver Age throwback than regular Supergirl. Up next, Jeff the Land Shark Superstar number 2. The Breaking Bad covers. This is not the Breaking Bad covers. They were completely gone from my LCS. No surprise that those were going to be popular. It was absolutely adorable. I went with this cover. It reminds me of a video game. I don't know if it's a reference to anybody, uh, but I liked it the most. And of course, the previous issue seemed like it was pretty faithful to the It's Jeff Infinity Comics, which of course, let's all be honest with ourselves, is the best Jeff content still. And maybe number 2 here will prove me wrong. Number 1 was good, but it was only approaching that content. I still have yet to see a series that really tries to recapture the magic that Kelly Thompson and Guri Hiru, I guess is how you pronounce that, really accomplished with that Infinity comic. And maybe that's not something that you can do in the monthly issue form, but I don't know. I'd give it a shot. That's what I say. And of course, the writer of Jeff the Landshark Superstar is Kelly Thompson, who also wrote the Infinity comics. Toki Tokoro, I'm not super familiar with the artist, takes over for Girihiru and gives their own style to Jeff, of course, but it's still very colorful, very cartoony, and really I don't mind it, but these are much more narrative heavy in that regard. They're not bad. The first issue was not bad, especially for all of the Jeff Coast Avengers attack, especially for all the sort of cameos we got by multiverse superhero themed. We got like multiple Wolverines and things like that, and a mashup of like the Avengers. It was really fun. It's just a really fun series. Just these first 2 issues, and I can tell that issue number 2 is going to be really fun as well. So if you're not picking it up, definitely check it out. If you like having fun with your comics, some people just like to keep it serious, and that's fine too. Up next is G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, Larry Hama's series, number 331. And what's going on right now in G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, if you are a fan of the original 1980s Marvel series, is a callback to a story arc from that series, the story arc where Snake Eyes was captured by Dr. Venom and went through the that sort of mind-bending machine that he had. Apparently, Dr. Venom planted an Easter egg in Snake Eye's mind. And now here, 50 years later, that's coming to fruition. And of course, it's not just Snake Eyes that's affected, it's the other sort of copies of Snake Eyes' psyche, which is Don Marino, is included in that, as well as the new Snake Eyes that they have on the team. And of course, last issue, you can see Snake Eyes running wild there. Last issue, he was going after Scarlet, which is really hard to watch, but fantastic stuff. And of course, as mentioned, the writer here is Larry Hama. Penciler is Paul Pelletier. Inker is Tony Cordos. Colorist is Francesco Sagala. So if you like classic, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it classic Marvel 80s storytelling at all. I don't think that's a fair or accurate to say, but if you like the continuation of classic stories that you're familiar with, this is absolutely perfect, since it does bring back that story arc from 50 years ago. Really cool callback. Up next, 00X Yumi. And this cover is actually by the interior artist, which is what I prefer. This is written by Doug Wagner with art by Hoyt Silva, and the colors are done by Kevin Leonards. And the premise of this book is that Yumi's boyfriend, who works for MI6, the same secret government agency that James Bond works for. I'm not saying James Bond is the book, just as a point of reference. Apparently, he goes missing, and whoever took him doesn't realize how much of a badass Yumi is, because Yumi's going to tear the house down and knock down the door of MI6 itself to find out what happened to him. We get a what do we call this? Not a damsel. Well, men can be damsels in distress, right? But maybe there's a gendered word that I'm looking for. Dude bro in distress? I don't know. I don't know that he's a dude bro necessarily. I don't know. I know nothing about her boyfriend. But look at this wonderful action that's happening right at the offset. Looks like if you do like your books more action oriented, and this reminds me of like Mark Waid, Chris Samney, Black Widow #1. Of course, it's not completely silent like that, but the dialogue is very economical. And I imagine probably a third into this, they're going to reorient to you and say, oh, so here's the deal. My boyfriend was taken and he was an MI6, blah, 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 blah. But I'm, just going to have fun with it. Looks like it's a nice action book. Lastly, for the floppies is Regicide #1. This is a wild looking book, of course. Look at that. And the artist for this, they use a pseudonym. Maybe they don't have the credits for the artist on the inside there. I forget the artist's name. It is an online handle, but this is just wild. Look at it. I love it so much, man. I'm kicking myself for not getting the credits. Of course, it's like kind of like a nightmare waifu deal going on. The premise of this book, and this is, let's see, I imagine written and illustrated, or they just choose not to give individual credits. Patrick Keeneland and Ludovic Laliat. You see the editor design, additional art by Ryu Oka. And the premise of this book is apparently like a simple farmhand is tasked to venture into the capital of his country in order to kill the vizier of, wait for it, Transylvania. So the solicit calls this a Dracula meets Berserk. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Berserk. But if you are, perhaps you understand what's going on with the aesthetic and all that. This is another one that you can see. It's very economical. Like the letters and the words are very big. So I mean, I don't think you could fill these panels really if you wanted to. And the illustration is it's just fantastic, right? It harkens back to those old fantasy books where you get details where needed, but it's not going for a hyper realism. It's going for a kind of, it's maintaining a surreal aesthetic just to, keep you keep you off your game, I guess. I don't know if this creature on the cover is something that we're going to eventually see in the book. It was just a wild looking cover. I had to absolutely go with it. And I don't know if it's a reference to something, if it was a pre existing art or not. Regicide #1. Lastly, kind of a bonus, but it did come out this week, is the Kick-Ass Compendium from Mark Miller and JRJR John Romita Jr. I'm not a huge Mark Miller fan. I don't dislike him. I read Wanted. That's the book that most comes to mind when I think of Mark Miller and what I've read. I've read other things by Mark Miller, including American Jesus, which I did not care for, and his Vampirella book with Grant Morrison, which was an interesting combination of writers there, right? The Kick-Ass Compendium. There's some controversy with Kick-Ass Collections post Dave Luzus. Am I saying that correctly? Dave Luzuski years. Apparently, with that collection, much of many scenes were censored, both in terms of course, assault, um, and like vulgarity. Uh, Apparently, the narrative was kind of altered just to make it less less intense in terms of how the events transpire. But I'm looking just quickly flipping through this. You're going to still see a lot of blood. You're going to see a lot of violence. You're going to see a lot of, you know, a lot of cussing and things like that. I guess, and this is just based on what I read quickly and looking into it. Mark Miller did it so that his daughters could enjoy the book in some regard, and he just wanted to. I guess he just wanted to lighten it up a little bit. It's fascinating because when that happens, when Miller decides to make that decision, it's, I mean, at what point can you defend anybody else that chooses to censor him moving forward? And maybe there's something to be said about an artist deciding to censor themselves versus external forces trying to censor them. But I don't know, if you're conceding that you can be short-sighted in how violent and how vicious and the subject matter that you include in your works, surely that extends externally as well. Other people, you can be short-sighted in not seeing that for all of your work, so I don't know. I can confirm that this is one of the censored versions. The way to determine that, I guess, was somebody mentioned a whole page that was just bracca, 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 bracca. That appears in this book. If you, I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen the movies or anything like that. It's a scene that occurs in the movies, but anyway, so if you are interested in whether or not this is the censored version, from what I can tell, this is in fact the censored version. Even though the back does not mention that it collects specifically the Dave Luzinski trade paperback collection, which was the first, I believe, place where the censored material appeared. This was $40, $39.99. It's, I mean, look at that. It's got a whole series, a whole series, a whole series, a whole series. You're looking at, let's see, eight, some quick math here. 8, that's 16, 5, that's 11, 16 plus 11. You're looking at 27 issues worth of material here. So that's quite a lot of stuff. Maybe if there's a page number on the back here, I can tell you. No, there's no page number. I can't tell you exactly the amount of pages. It's a lot. I don't usually go in for soft cover compendiums, really only if there's no other alternative, and they didn't release this in hardcover form. So if you're interested, there you have it. It's the censored version. So if you really want the material that was censored, you're going to have to find something previous to the Dave previous to the censored collection, which was the Dave Luzinski years. And this is not going to whet your appetite for that. Thank you very much for watching. Kind of a short week there, but I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.